It's amazing that I'm doing this on technology, isn't it? I want to keep things more positive sometimes. I think it's very necessary that we do, because we can see things in a very bad light, because there's many bad things, but we can also be pretty positive based on those bad things, because we see potential, we see improvement, we see a cycle bound to help people either way. But the sad part is sometimes you see detriment in the way, and it's not very good. I mean, the sad truth is that people just, to be honest, just don't care about the world they live in. Some people just don't care at all. And then others will care. But there's so many things that is like in our way that we can't really do much about, even though we can do a lot. When I say we, I'm talking the crowd that would see this video, not much of someone in great power positions, I would assume. But, someone that's just living their life and shouldn't have to be bothered by such great powers that be, that presume such power, of course. But it's just amazing to me that, first of all, I could give this recording in a century that never really was able to do that before in this world. And that, therefore, our existence and potential goes even further. More responsibilities, for sure, right? Just like how you create a video game. There never was that video game until you created it. That video game now, you can put your whole life dependent on it, right? Like, I need to log on to this every day to get this resource, or do this every day to get this amount of coins, like an artificial money, and then artificial sounds and artificial feedbacks and everything just artificial. But when I say people don't care about the world they live in, it's literally the world that we are detached from, in a way. Because this is the world that we all live in, yet choose to plug ourselves into other worlds that we create. Why? Because, it helps us and it's supposed to, give us downtime and stuff like that. Why is that? Because of the world that we've brought upon ourselves. And I always bring it back to ourselves, but that's where the answer lives. And without that hard reality, I don't know what else, because we are creating the very forces that are destructive. And oftentimes, even if you say it isn't, it's still reactive and in conflict with the natural orders of life, the natural law that is being the innate truths of the universal. But being in the winter, it's cold, it's freezing, and, so be it. Back then, I'm sure we had tighter communities, neighbors, and stuff. And to be honest, I don't have much of a social life as I'd like to have. I don't think anybody does, to be honest. And many people who are older may see this even more than those who are younger, even though those who are younger really... their body is telling them that they need that, for sure. That's why they're so in-depth into relationships, even though the divorce rate is skyrocketing and infertility is skyrocketing, which is, to me, the most alarming statistic there can ever be, especially on health. And that is not something that we should just ignore. We can see projections that India will have the largest population, and then you see Nigeria passing potentially the U.S., and to some that might seem inevitable, but I don't know how much the population will sustain itself. As it is, they're already dependent on so many things. It's just a matter of time till things start to tumble apart more. And it's like, should I be worried about having a job, or should I be really worried about having sustainability? Because I think those are two different questions. Having a job, making money is different from knowing how to survive in the wild, or knowing people close by to protect you and to keep you sheltered, and away from all the storms that is natural, but most of the things that are basically man-made, even still, right? Because there would be riots in a collapse scenario. There would be absolute chaos. Politicians are going to hold their grip and their ground, saying, we need to do this, we need to do that. I mean, absolute mind control, absolute dependence. Everything will just come into light right there and then. But do I want to see that? Of course not. I don't want to see that. But we already see it today. What I'm saying is it's just going to manifest into a greater nest where it all just builds up, and then, it takes a bird to land in the nest, and maybe, a bird built it, so a bird can break it. But, it's just, there's many analogies you can use, and especially within nature, which is why the best poems are. And that's why I write poems. It's why I do the speaks that I do, and I never realized how fast time goes by, but the message needs to be heard, I believe. And not many people will hear it, but I hope the people that do actually look around the world, not just believe me, but look around. There is much to see, and looking at statistics is not enough. In fact, you can just get these from observations, I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure. I see it every day, not just within my practice, but just looking around, I see people sort of unaware, but not just that. Low energy, lack of sleep, simple things that bring life. And if you don't have life present, what are you asking? There's no life in the foods. What are you asking upon yourself if you are consumed by life all over the place? And, that life is consuming you. That's other human beings. Meanwhile, you're not consuming any life that is from nature, and you're not learning anything that is substantial to that. Just look where the fields are going. Everything is in technology. Regardless of medicine, it's still in technology. It's sad to see people spend so much money on the craziest things. And simple observations like that, I feel like a lot of people can observe that. I feel like a lot of people agree with that. Right, but there's certain people that may not say or see that at all, and maybe if I mention it, oh yeah, I know that. But do you actually do something about that? It's just, then you ask, well, what could you actually do, right? And then it's like, you don't want to promote violence and blah, blah, blah. It never is. The best way is always awareness. Awareness is always the best way. But taking the power into your own hands is always better, but that doesn't mean taking the same power that is used over you to use it against someone else. You see, it's just one big ironic loophole that is just feeding itself, is where, oh my gosh, I don't like the country I live in, I must be the leader and run this country instead. This country, this border that we created for ourselves. And I'm not against borderless countries. I'm against denaturing. Okay, there's a big difference. I'm saying that there's so much things you can wrap your brain around, and just question. And some people feel like they're hopeless, but that's the very issue. Is why do they feel they're hopeless? Everything is coming down to self-responsibility, and it's just, when are you going to be responsible, right? When am I going to be responsible? I'm just a millennial, I guess you could say. I don't know, but I don't know enough. I don't, because I've seen people who know a lot more than me, and they don't have to have wealth. That means nothing, and they're going to be the ones that survive the most and the longest, as those who already have the least. So again, it's just one big cycle. And that's how power keeps its power, is understanding what power is and how to manipulate people, right? They have people that actually use propaganda and know how to do it psychologically to affect people. I believe the father of propaganda, I don't know, I don't want to throw a name out there that's not right, so I'm not going to. But there's, okay, Edward Bernays, I think is one. But, we have a situation. I'm like, well, I mean, who really cares? Because who cares to even listen to something? And it comes from the internet, nonetheless, right? I mean, I don't want you being on the internet. So it's like, is this a wake-up call from the internet to get off the internet? Just like how the bird destroyed the nest? I mean, does it take you having to go and be an insider to destroy the system inside and out? Right? I mean, these are the questions that I feel like should be asked. But then I say, oh, well, there are certain clear answers, and that one clear answer is my message and you, right? It's not just nature's the answer, you are the answer. But if you don't know who yourself is, your own nature and the world you live in, it will be hard to find who you are. So, again, it's just a figurative phrase, but I think it speaks truth to the situation we are in for humanity and the world, essentially, because I don't know what's going to happen, frankly. I mean, in a way I do, right? I listed some reasons. I know what's going to happen, but I don't know what's going to happen, being that people could stand up, but what extent are they? Because as it is, if they have low energy now, what energy will they have when something even worse happens? And just, my gosh, just make some observations, think about the future a little bit, and then you may say, oh, I want to be present, and I'd rather live in this slave state. Doesn't matter, it's still going to hurt people, still going to collapse, things are still going to happen. And if you're not prepared, there can be mass extinction. And that's exactly what infertility is. I mean, we see that already. Mass amounts of the European white race. I mean, I have to preserve my heritage, should I not? But, be proud of who you are. What's wrong with that? But that doesn't make me any title or whatever that people may throw smears on me about. I'm just being honest, right? And just an internet message is going to be judged simply as it is, but it's like literally I'm just speaking. It's just words. It doesn't matter. So, yep, this is this. I just wanted to talk about how people just don't care. And, I mean, if you care, show it. I mean, show that you care. Do you actually care? Do you have to be on the internet to destroy the internet? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it, but yet, that's what I'm doing. So, it's very interesting, right? But it's going to take a movement probably from nature itself to change what we've created as a nature for ourselves that really isn't real. And that's exactly what happened in the food industry. People are waking up. And that's where you could see things in the positive light, is that things will always reverse upon itself. But the extent to which it does and to how many people are actually ready, I think is the very question, is the very question for survival. And natural selection and survival of the fittest, basically, for who has the most strength, who has the most stamina to get through it. And for me, I feel like it's probably just a matter of relaxation and realizing, that there isn't this bigger empire that we create for ourselves, and there isn't billions and billions of people that have issues, but you do have to realize how lucky you are to even have technology, if you're listening to this, or live when many other people succumb to some sort of disease or death or depression or something of the sort, which again is something like infertility, actually. because it's a form of denaturement. And that's why I consider most of all diseases forms of denaturement, because I mean, is it natural for these things to come about? And by natural, does that mean that means innate? Blueprint wise, is it designed in your body to give you that disease? I mean, are you just designed by the universe to have a disease? No. And people who are depressed often feel hopeless, right? So it's like, what do I have to lose? It's like absolutely ridiculous. We have a great mystery upon ourselves, and we should take that upon ourselves, because that creates some fun, I would say. And fun is nothing wrong either, right? Humor is not wrong either. I feel like those things could be leaving us. Real music, right? Music, I mean, now it's all pop music. And old-fashioned websites maybe. I mean, everything you can say old-fashioned, you could say is more toward nature. It's not necessarily that it is. I mean, it's just the fact that we've so fell down that it's hard to pick ourselves back up. And, or even if not that analogy, it's the fact that we're in this mist of confusion where the clouds just keep covering our faces, and it's harder to unveil what's behind these clouds. And and that's it's not vaping, it's it's not cigarettes, but it's reflective. It's very reflective. What we're doing to ourselves, to our body, to our universe is manifesting. Realize the impact you do have, because you do set a footprint. Everything you do, which is why I make these messages, is because it sets a footprint regardless, internet or not. And I think the underlying truths always matter regardless. So let that be heard for that to manifest. So create the world that you want, because there's limitless possibilities, completely limitless. And until that is realized, I don't think there'll be much change. And let's just say not a lot of people realize it, but you can, which can give you a great jump start. How about that? But realize your position. I have work to do. You have work to do. And we all need to do it together. Thank you very much for listening. This is Cory Edmund Engelot. Nature is the answer. And goodbye.